My husband looked me dead in the eye, in the middle of our beautifully decorated, sun-drenched kitchen. A kitchen I designed, by the way, and he said the words that finally broke our marriage. He said, "Olivia will always be a part of my life, Eleanor. She understands me in a way you never will. If you don't like it, you should." He paused, gesturing vaguely at the room. "Find a new life. I'm not changing." What he didn't realize when he delivered that arrogant, self-serving ultimatum was that I'd already packed my bags months ago, metaphorically speaking. And the door he pointed me toward? I was about to use it to usher him out of my life forever. This is the story of how my husband chose his emotional codependent ex-girlfriend over his wife, and how I chose my sanity over a broken marriage. I need to rewind about 3 years, to the early days of dating David. He was charming, attentive, and successful in his career as an IT consultant. We had a whirlwind courtship, filled with romantic weekend trips and late-night intellectual conversations. I am Eleanor, a pragmatic, high-level marketing director who values stability and honesty. I thought I had finally found my partner, my equal. However, one shadow always lingered: Olivia. She wasn't an ex he slept with, she was worse. She was the college sweetheart, the great love, who broke up with him 10 years ago because she moved states away for a sudden career opportunity, only to fail at it and move back 6 years later. Their relationship, according to David, was intense, spiritual, and had ended not because of lack of love, but because of timing. They had made a solemn, tearful pact to always be there for each other. Initially, I dismissed it. Everyone has an ex. I thought that as our relationship deepened, getting engaged, merging our lives, marrying, Olivia would naturally recede into the background, becoming a pleasant, occasional memory. I was catastrophically wrong. The subtle intrusions started immediately after we moved in together. They were small at first, almost cute. A text from Olivia about a sad movie David had to see. A late-night call because she was having a mental health crisis, and David was the only one who understood her specific anxiety. These calls, always occurring when we were having dinner or trying to have a serious conversation, would stretch into hours. David would retreat to the garage, whispering intensely into the phone, emerging hours later looking drained but somehow virtuous, as if he'd just saved a life. I tried to be the cool wife. I tried to frame her as an unfortunate friend struggling with anxiety, but the constant erosion of our boundaries was exhausting. By the time we married, Olivia was a permanent, invisible resident in our home. David constantly peppered our conversations with references to their past. "This restaurant is good, but Olivia and I found a better one in Tuscany. This camping trip is great, but that time Olivia and I hiked the Appalachian Trail." It made me feel like an understudy, an asterisk next to his true life story. When I gently brought this up, he'd accuse me of rewriting history. "Eleanor, I can't erase 10 years of my life just because you're insecure. She's my history." Beyond the shared memories, Olivia's emergencies always superseded my plans. I remember planning a special dinner for my 35th birthday. We had reservations at a Michelin-starred restaurant booked 6 weeks in advance. 2 hours before the reservation, Olivia called. She'd gotten a flat tire in a downpour 40 miles away and couldn't afford a tow truck. David, without hesitation, canceled our entire evening. "She's alone now. I have to go." He spent 4 hours in the rain fixing her tire, while I ate takeout alone, trying to pretend the soggy dumplings were celebratory. When he returned, he was defensive. She was scared. "You're safe at home." Then came the first major boundary explosion. The spare key. We had been married for 8 months. I came home early from a stressful client meeting. As I walked into the kitchen, I saw a familiar handbag. A vintage leather one I recognized from Olivia's Instagram, sitting on our dining table. Olivia was sitting on our sofa, sipping coffee, reading a book. I stopped dead. "Olivia? What are you doing here?" She looked up, completely unperturbed. "Oh hey Eleanor. David gave me a key last week. I had an appointment nearby and had a few hours to kill, so I figured I'd wait here. It's so cozy." My blood ran cold. David gave his ex a key to our marital home without discussing it with me, his wife. When David came home, the argument was explosive. "It's just a spare key, Eleanor. She was locked out of her own place once. It's an emergency key. An emergency key for our house? David, she is your ex-girlfriend, not our sister. That is a massive boundary violation. Why didn't you ask me? His defense. You would have just said no. And that's selfish. Olivia is family. She's fragile, Eleanor. She needs to feel secure. I forced him to take the key back, but the damage was done. I realized that to David, our marital agreement was conditional, whereas his pact with Olivia was sacred. The arguments about boundaries became a constant, low-grade fever in our marriage. Every defense of Olivia chipped away at my respect for David. But the breaking point wasn't emotional, it was financial. It became a matter of theft. We had a joint savings account, meticulously built for a down payment on a bigger house. We each contributed equally. I had also recently received a large inheritance from my grandmother, $150,000, which I had deposited into our joint investment accounts, purely because I trusted David implicitly. We were planning on pulling $50,000 from the joint savings in 3 months. One Tuesday, I logged into the joint savings account to check the balance before paying a large quarterly bill. The balance was off. Exactly $10,000 was missing. My heart seized up. I immediately checked the transaction history. The money had been wired out 10 days prior, labeled vaguely as personal loan emergency. I called David at his office, my voice shaking so badly I could barely form words. David, where is the $10,000? I need a clear answer right now. He hedged. He stammered. Oh, that. It was Olivia. She lost her job and she needed a deposit for a new apartment immediately, or she was going to be homeless. She said she'd pay it back in a year. You gave her $10,000 from our down payment fund without discussing it with me? $10,000 we both sweated to save. His voice immediately hardened into self-righteousness. She was crying, Eleanor. She was having a panic attack. Would you rather she live on the street? I am helping a friend in crisis. Why are you making this about money? You have plenty of money. That line, you have plenty of money, was the key. He didn't see it as shared money or even my money. He saw my financial stability as a limitless resource he could unilaterally deploy to maintain his emotional codependency with Olivia, regardless of the consequences to our joint goals. That day, I didn't yell or cry. I became cold. I called Mr. Thompson, my personal attorney, and scheduled an emergency meeting. I didn't tell David about the meeting. I simply told him he had 24 hours to put that $10,000 back, or I would consider it theft and fraud. He didn't put the money back. Instead, he sent me a text message. I'm not going to let you abandon Olivia just because you're stressed. It's a loan between friends. Stop being paranoid. After the financial boundary collapsed, I knew the marriage was over, but I needed to gather my ducks in a row. I spent the next 2 months working silently with Mr. Thompson. The conflict escalated into a major emotional battleground over Thanksgiving. I had planned a small, quiet, intimate Thanksgiving dinner, just for us. It was meant to be peaceful, a last attempt at normalcy. David, however, announced 3 days before the holiday that Olivia would be joining us. She has nowhere else to go, Eleanor. Her mother is traveling, and she's already spiraling because of the job loss. She can't be alone on Thanksgiving. I won't allow it. I felt the blood rush to my head. David, you gave her $10,000 of our savings. She is not family. This is my holiday. This is our home. She is not invited. If you make her feel unwelcome, you are a horrible person, Eleanor. She's delicate. I've already invited her. She's coming. Olivia arrived and instantly poisoned the atmosphere. She made snide comments about the turkey, suggesting her mother's recipe was authentically better. She spent the entire afternoon monopolizing David, pulling him into the living room to look at photo albums from their college days, forcing me to carve the turkey alone, weeping silently in the kitchen. The final straw came a month later. Olivia's elderly mother, who lived 3 states away, suffered a minor stroke. Olivia called David in hysterics. David came to me, his face drawn. I have to go, Eleanor. Olivia needs me. Her mom is sick, and Olivia can't handle hospitals alone. I'm going for the week. I was appalled but saw an opportunity. I'll come with you. We can drive or I can fly out tomorrow. I'll handle logistics and you can focus on being supportive. David shut me down immediately. No, absolutely not. It's too sensitive. Olivia needs me there to focus only on her emotional needs. You wouldn't understand the dynamic. It has to be just me. I'll be staying in a hotel near the hospital, obviously. He emphasized the word hotel a little too strongly. I watched him pack his bags, kissing him goodbye with the knowledge that this was the last time I would ever pretend to be his wife. I already knew he was lying. I had learned from the key incident that David only lied when it concerned Olivia, and his need to maintain emotional intimacy with her outside the bounds of our marriage. As soon as David's flight took off, I called a contact I had cultivated, a friend who lived 2 blocks from Olivia in that distant city, whom I hadn't seen in years. I asked her for a huge favor. Can you confirm if David's distinct black SUV is parked anywhere near Olivia's address this week? The photos started arriving on Tuesday. The first was a shot of David's SUV parked in Olivia's driveway. The second was a blurry but unmistakable photo of David walking into Olivia's house in his pajamas, holding 2 mugs. The third, sent on Thursday, was the kicker. David and Olivia sitting on her front porch, laughing intimately, holding hands. He wasn't staying at a hotel. He was living in her house, playing house with his ex-girlfriend under the guise of emotional support for a sick mother. The emotional affair was now undeniable, backed by photographic evidence of cohabitation and lies. I spent the next 3 days putting my plan into action with Mr. Thompson. First, the financial blockade. I instructed my bank to transfer 100% of my $150,000 inheritance and a substantial portion of my separate retirement funds out of all joint investment accounts and into new accounts solely in my name. I used my legal authority over my premarital assets to create a fortress. Second, the divorce filing. Mr. Thompson finalized the no-fault divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences and emotional abandonment. The papers were ready to be served the moment David returned. Third, the physical eviction. Since I had purchased our home 3 years before marrying David, the title was solely in my name, though we had lived there as a marital residence. This complicated things slightly but allowed me control. I hired a locksmith and a security technician to change every single lock and alarm code in the house while David was gone. The only things that remained the same were the garage keypads, which I deactivated entirely. David arrived home late on Sunday evening, looking rumpled, exhausted, and smugly self-satisfied. The look of a martyr who had fulfilled his noble duty. He walked into the kitchen, dropped his duffel bag, and sighed dramatically. That was the hardest week of my life, Eleanor. Olivia was a wreck. But I was there for her. I was her rock. I was sitting at the dining table, sipping tea, wearing a sharp, tailored black dress, surrounded by spreadsheets and legal documents. I didn't look up immediately. How was the hotel, David? I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. He blinked. Oh, the hotel was fine. Sterile, you know. But functional. I finally looked up. I pushed the 3 photos across the table. The SUV, the pajamas, the hands being held. The color drained from his face instantly. He stammered. Eleanor, it's not what it looks like. Her mother's house was full. I just crashed on her couch. We were just comforting each other. It was platonic. Platonic. I leaned forward. You lied to your wife, David, about where you were sleeping, while using our joint funds to bankroll the woman you're comforting. I have documented evidence that you prioritize her comfort over the basic honesty required in a marriage. It's an emotional affair, and the lying made it physical. I picked up the divorce papers, a heavy stack, and slapped them down next to the photos. This is over. You gave her $10,000 of our savings. You sacrificed my birthday. You ruined my Thanksgiving. You lied about where you were sleeping. I have had enough. I delivered my final ultimatum, the one I had practiced in my mind for weeks. You have 2 choices, David. You block her number, you cut her off financially, you sign these divorce papers peacefully, and you go to intense couples counseling to address your codependency, before I even consider a reconciliation. That is your path back. He looked at the papers, then at the photos, then at me. His exhaustion melted into anger, and that familiar entitlement surfaced, the one I hated most. He looked me dead in the eye, in the middle of our beautifully decorated, sun-drenched kitchen, and he said the line that ended it all. He yelled, "Olivia will always be a part of my life, Eleanor. She understands me in a way you never will. If you don't like it, you should find a new life." "I'm not changing." I smiled, a cold, hard, genuine smile. "I agree completely." I stood up, walked to the front door, and brought back a neat, military-style duffel bag I had placed there earlier. It was filled with a week's worth of his clothes, toiletries, and his work laptop. I tossed the duffel bag at his feet. "No, David. You should find a new life. That bag is all you get. The locks are changed. The alarm codes are new. The divorce papers are filed. When you leave, the doors lock behind you, and you do not return without a court order. Olivia needs a place to crash, right? Since you're so dedicated to her emotional needs, you can go stay on her couch permanently. You chose your ex over your marriage. You don't get both." His face went from indignation to sheer, unadulterated shock. He stammered, But this is my home. You can't just throw me out. Where am I supposed to go? You had a home, David. You abandoned it for a week to play house with your ex. The house is legally mine, and you are no longer welcome. Go be Olivia's rock. You wanted her in your life forever? Congratulations. Now she's the only life you have left." I watched him struggle to pick up the bag, his entire world collapsing around his ears. He tried to plead, he tried to scream, he tried to use the old, "I'm fragile" defense, but I was immovable. I had already grieved the marriage while he was away comforting Olivia. He made his choice, and I executed the consequences. I stood by the door and watched him leave the house in total silence, locking the deadbolt the moment the door clicked shut behind him. I immediately put my phone on airplane mode. The divorce is proceeding swiftly, thanks to my preemptive actions and David's indefensible behavior. He tried to fight for the $150,000 inheritance, but Mr. Thompson had protected every penny. He is now living with Olivia, sharing her small, messy apartment. A situation I know is temporary and miserable, as his rock is quickly finding out what it's like to live with a man who has lost everything due to his own arrogance. I have found immense peace. My house is quiet. My finances are secure. I lost a husband, but I gained my sanity and proved to myself that I will never let anyone, not even a spouse, disregard my boundaries or my financial integrity again.